Hey, Liron here. If you're struggling to get the kinds of results you're after in watercolor, let me share with you a big mistake that you're probably making that's preventing and limiting the upside of how good your paintings turn out. So watercolor, and I'm going to sketch real quick, these are just a bunch of pictures we can practice on. Watercolor is more about observation and noticing what's going on paper, as opposed to, let me make this one a little smaller, as opposed to having a strict, rigid vision in mind. So quite often, the thing that's going to get you the result you're after is being aware of what's going on paper. And I'm going to demonstrate this to you, how instead of working hard at trying to shape watercolor into what you want them to be, what you can do instead is let it lead you and do most of the work for you. So I'm going to start with some relatively clean water here. And check it out. I'm going to pre-wet some areas that I want to be smooth transitions. So I'm wetting. I like to paint wet on dry, but just for these instances where I am looking for some softer edges, I'm going to pre-wet. Now check it out. I am seeing quite a bit of yellow. So let me get started. And I'm going to introduce a bit of these yellows. And look, I'm not in a hurry. I am taking my time because my greatest strength and my greatest ability that's going to serve me in getting the result I want is my ability to look at what's going on paper. That's the biggest thing. So right now, already I'm noticing that I like this yellow a lot, and it's a good starting point. But what I'm going to probably need is a bit of a warmer yellow. So I'm going to pick up a bit of this warmer yellow that I have here to the side. I'm going to start pushing it in. Okay, now look at what's going on. Does the paint spread as you would want it to? Or are you getting something that is going to create a mess, right? So this is going to spread out. I can let it spread out or I can control it. But the thing is, you have to notice and see it happening. That's the biggest thing that people miss. So let's go off of that. And I'm going to start pushing for the more reds that I'm seeing, because there's a lot of red in here. So I'm using Pyrrole Scarlet, Lemon Yellow, pretty standard colors, nothing special here. And let's see if that is going to work out. I do see a lot of this red. Now I may end up introducing some quinacridone roses, some more traditional, let's say, cooler reds that tend to work a little better when it comes to preserving the vibrancy of color. So let's test it out here to the side. So this is a bit closer to what would seem to be working where it is well lit. These two together. Sorry, I think I bumped the tripod of the camera. So you see, and it's okay if I don't have the perfectly accurate colors. It's really not about the colors. If you think about what makes a watercolor look good, it's more about following your intuition and vision. Vision, you do have something that you imagine you want to paint, but then you have the result on paper for which you have to use your intuition and see, is it going the direction I want? So taking my time here, I'm not in a hurry, I'm not in stress. This could be taken down a notch to make the highlight mean more. And here, I am seeing that I could go ahead and make this a little longer to the side. And here's the key part, right? So right now I'm looking at it and I still have not hit the darkest darks that I need. So let's start mixing in those, and they have to be quite strong reds, okay? And I'm taking my time with this single peach here because it's that significant. So to really let it time to develop. So I'm seeing this cast shadow, and that's the real dark element. So I can start establishing it. It goes through the center, and I may even add a bit of French ultramarine to it. People always complain about my palette. I can see the colors really well. Just doesn't always come through the camera perfectly, but that's fine. But you see how I'm starting to establish the darks, and this is really going to start telling our story here. This goes all the way up to here, right? And it starts to create the shape. Now, one more thing I'm noticing is I'm going to need much more clean, vibrant color around here. So I'm going to use this more vibranty orange color that I have on my palette. You can use whatever. You can mix it yourself. You can use a convenience mixture that's already mixed. And I'm going to add that, I think, also to this area, right? This needs to really shine. And then I'm noticing that also in the yellows, I'm missing some nuances. So let's add a bit of yellow to this mix. And I want to keep them still quite strong. They need to be yellows, but also dark. And I'm going to start establishing the dark yellows too. So can you tell how some of these yellows should be a little darker? And that's how I am sculpting this peach, by pure observation. Yes, I have experience. Yes, I know my way around getting the washes to do what I want. But the thing that separates me from a beginner more than everything is I learned how important it is to really pay attention to what's going on paper. This was an insight that I got in one big burst, and ever since then my paintings have become permanently better immediately. It wasn't like the long time it took to know that to understand it, to understand that's a thing. But then as soon as I got it, my work became exponentially better overnight, quite literally. So something to have in mind there. If you've bought into the hard work and practice, not necessarily. Now look, this peach underneath is darker, so let's start with a darker color to already establish this nice contrast, right? Now it is still yellow, and I can play around with the mix and add a bit more of the lemon yellow to make it look a little more yellow, even a lot more. You can go wild here, you don't have to adhere to what you're seeing too. But one thing that I'm seeing that I love and I would like to portray is this little sliver of bright red. So let's get that. So the more experience you have, the more you're going to notice these opportunities. They present themselves. So check it out right here near the edge of the shape. You see? It's a beautiful red. And that's going to really tell the story of a light turning into dark. Then I go switch back into my yellow and kind of express the areas that are the in-betweens. Same for this area, right? It's a nice orange, but towards the edge, it's going to go a little more red. Now, I went the other route here, and I started just purely wet on dry, but I can just come back with some water, check it out, and a bit, I think, of yellow, mostly yellow and some water, and I can start making this transition from my darks to lights that is still a relatively soft and smooth transition. There's some reflected light here, and this is quite yellow actually, so let me introduce more water. Look, I'm reacting to what's going on paper. This isn't rocket science. I'm reacting. This area is lighter, but here we have a stronger core shadow that I have yet to establish. So let's get our kind of strong oranges and see if we can darken just the inner, see the inner sides of the shadow. So close down some of these gaps that aren't as necessary. Orange these areas up. If this is still a little wet, even just a bit, we can play off of that and check it out. We can make the contrast right around their meeting point a little stronger with a relatively dry brush. The reason it has to be dry is that the paint is already drying on paper, right? And then going back to our more vibrant color, and you can at any point take a moment to clean your palette. I just like that organic, messy look. What's guiding me through this process is my experience. My experience in noticing what's going on paper. And if you just, for the next painting, choose a very simple subject matter. Don't try and bite more than you can chew. So you start small and simple, but see if you can pay attention more to what's going on paper. You will be amazed at how this alone brings you much better results, quite simply. And by the way, do me a solid, if you've been watching my videos for a while, for possibly years, and you still haven't checked out my watercolor courses, you can find links in the description box below to my frustration-free watercolor course. That's the main one you want for this kind of painting, and for the watercolor realism course, if that's something you're more into. your color choices, whatever you have on the palette, will affect your process, but it's more about finding colors you enjoy and love and learning how they work perfectly for you. Instead of finding the perfect color, you're going to use whatever colors you have, but you're going to learn how to utilize those in the most effective manner. That's what I think it's about. So let's establish these darks here. Quite strongly saturated. And then we have this nice core shadow where it starts quite dark, and then we have some reflected light right around here. And I'm going to switch to some cleaner water just to spread out some of the paint. Maybe make it a little more on the yellow side towards this edge right here. You see, it has this little yellowy edge to it. And of course we get the wet and wet details. I'm adding a bit of Carbazole Violet, which you haven't seen me use much so far, just to see if I can start establishing that little crease here. See, just a bit. And then as this starts to dry, I'm gonna have to continue to feed that area with more paint because it's gonna start spreading out a bit, and I'm gonna increasingly use stronger and stronger paint, right? And okay, here's a cool part. How do we take this from just a subject matter, like still life or whatever you want to call it, make it more interesting with the background? So let's see if we can establish something simple. Okay, doesn't have to be too complex. We have a green. The basis here is a green, so I'm going to start by adding my blues and my yellows and seeing if we can even use a convenience mixture. We can even use undersea green here that I have a bit of. If you want to, you don't have to. But the thing is, I'm going to start creating some kind of a green that's going to serve me for the background. So let's start establishing that. So here, there's a really strong point of contrast that I can take advantage of to start bringing out the shape of the fruit. See? Now, if you cut too much into the fruit, that's fine. You can be a little careful to make sure it doesn't happen. But it's fine. You can always grab another brush and do some fixing if you need to. So I'm going to clean this one. Then I'm going to go back here and just can even use this opportunity to produce a somewhat smooth edge with even a bit of a feeling of glow, like the fruit creates a bit of glow there. And then here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to, funny enough, just add some water here and leave the edges quite loose and open for interpretation. I'm not interested in making necessarily a final painting here. I just want to show you the power of negative painting and edges. Now on this side where the light hits, let's go lighter, and we can afford that because the border of this peach is lighter. So I would go even more on the vibrant yellow side. So check it out. And here I don't have to worry about the two washes mixing because it's just paper white, right? And look at how immediately this makes for such an interesting impression, in my opinion. And then you keep it very kind of light-hearted here around the bottom. The contrast is going to come from the colors around here, not from the values. And you know, I kind of like it. I'm going to really keep things simple. Let's go with a bit of a stronger yellow here. And keep this one loose, you know. I'm not even going to touch this side. I think I like the composition. Maybe I'll just soften it up a bit towards the top here, just to show you how that punchiness closes in. And you could add a bit more of a even orange feel to it. So check it out. Even though you have some orange in the peaches, you can almost go there, see, and make this feel like a light source in a way, right? You could vary it up quite a bit, and you get this beautiful impression that if you just pay attention to what's going on paper, you really look at it carefully, you might find that a lot of the mistakes you were making so far, it's just a product of lack of attention. And once you place that attention in the right spot, it solves all problems because you will find the solution in real time. That's the thing. If you want to be able to do that, look, it's time to master watercolor. Just go ahead. If you still haven't got the frustration-free watercolor course, link in the description box below. I also added a new lesson recently. You want to check that out, and I'm planning on adding another new lesson to the Watercolor Realism course. If you're already in the frustration-free watercolor course, you want to crank up that realism, go ahead and check out the Watercolor Realism course. I do want to thank everyone who supports me over on Patreon. If you just want to know you're supporting my work and making my life a whole lot better, check that out. You receive credits at the end of the videos like you're seeing here, and also access to a couple of exclusive processes. Definitely more to come. So the later you join, you will have access to everything that was previously published. I do want to thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in a comment down below, if you don't mind, if you made it this far, what other processes you would like to see. I'm trying to cater more to what you like. You may notice that I've been doing a lot of shorter, punchier, kind of direct technique videos, but if you want like a longer process, more detailed, more in-depth, kind of you sit down for maybe 40 minutes even, and you see everything more in depth, let me know. I can do that as well. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next vid. Take care.